All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 136 today, World UFO Day. So we're just going to be talking UFOs and UAPs and all the good stuff. So,
How's it going, my man?
good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm surprised nothing crazies came out today. I was expecting some alien reveals,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I think you'd expect the mainstream media to have something or at least talk about what's already out there. But there's a lot of, on Twitter, there's a lot of people posting stuff and sharing stuff around. So, um, so let's get into it here. I made that little picture there. What do you think about that?
it's pretty cool. Is that from Mars Attacks?
But I just thought we'd go over like all the stuff from the different guests we've had on that to talk about this, and also, with the last few years since we've been doing the podcast, all the stuff that's come out. So,
Cool. Good plan.
all right, a little terminology when we do these slideshow episodes. Like to throw some stuff out there because I'm sure there'll be people that don't know or
Right.
are unaware.
Like me.
So there's the ATIP program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It was a secret program run by our government investigating UFOs and UAP. Our government spent $22 million on this, and I think it was from 2007 to 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So most people that think all this stuff's BS, if it's BS, then why are we looking into it? So, I mean, that would be one of the main questions to somebody that's skeptical, why we're spending money on this if it's nothing. Or, we've known about this since, since World War II pretty much, even before that, but that's really when things started to heat up.
Mm-hmm.
UAP, if people don't know what that stands for, it's Unexplained Aerial Phenomena. OSAP is the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program. It was a program initiated by Harry Reid. FLIR, when you see people in the FLIR videos that are out there, it just means Forward-Looking Infrared System. CE5 is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. We've talked about that on other episodes. That's the whole Stephen Greer stuff.
Yeah, there's a whole documentary about it.
That is the name of the documentary, but that's what they're doing now is trying to contact beings and UFOs via consciousness and meditation and stuff. So that's why he takes those people out to the desert.
I think that's more of a valid argument as far as the UFOs, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Oh, will we? Let's get
Oh, you
running
better
this.
believe, baby.
Maurice is trying to run the show now. IFL, Identified Flying Objects, that's Dr. Michael Masters' hypothesis, and that's when we had him on, we talked about his book, and that's also the name of his book, and it's basically the time that UFOs and aliens are time traveling machines and time travelers. So. Transmedian travel. So that means that like when you see these UFOs or UAP ones that have been caught and eyewitness accounts, they're able to traverse air, space, and water effortlessly. So it's like it's just cutting through butter with all that. So. And then the Wilson memo, people have been talking a lot about that lately. It's a memo tied to Admiral Wilson claiming that the technology we have from elsewhere that they've tried to reverse engineer or whatever, gets a new assessment every 10 years to see if our basically our science hasn't caught up with what the technology is, because we don't know how to use it and stuff, and we don't know what's going on with it. So
Yeah, and we still don't.
well, I mean, it never will. Let's get into it here. So probably the most popular organization and topic right now has been To the Stars Academy, or TTSA. It's the main people that you see, out in the media and stuff are usually Tom DeLonge, Luis Elizondo, Chris Mellon, and Hal Puthoff. I mean, there's more, but that's usually who people are talking about.
The core team, yeah.
And you can go on their website and look at all, what their titles are and what they do and stuff. But And then that's when you had the New York Times article written, and then you had the videos that got released, the Go Fast, the Gimbal, the Tic Tac videos, or the Tic Tac video. And the Pentagon confirmed that they are all real. They declassified them, and they are of unknown origin. The Tic Tac videos, obviously, we've had Sean Cahill on, and Sean was on the USS Princeton, which was traveling with the USS Nimitz when that happened. So you can go back and listen to the episode we did with him and listen to his account of the whole thing. It's also featured on Unidentified Season 1, I think Episode 3, if I'm not mistaken. And the Gimbal video is the one that looks like it's kind of like I don't even know, like a top kind of a looking thing, like a spinning top. And it rotates and spins around. And the Go Fast. Now...
The Go Fast is named because the guy he says go fast in it, right?
Yeah, they say so. I don't know if that's why. I don't know. I've watched them a bunch of times. I've never really paid attention to that. I mean, obviously the Tic Tac, it looks like a Tic Tac.
Right.
Secret Machines, that's the book series by Tom DeLonge and is it Peter Levenda? I think it's Peter Levenda.
Check it out. Let me double check.
And I've read, those are the two nonfiction books that they've come out with. God's Man and War, that's the first one. A lot of it's about mythology, ancient civilizations, people seeing weird things in the sky since the beginning of conscious time, and a lot of the cargo cult concept type stuff. And then it gets into the occult nature of some of these civilizations and things like that.
You said Peter Levenda?
Yeah, Levenda.
Yeah, you're
Peter
right.
Levenda. Secret Machines, the newest one, Man. It's all about man, and a lot of it's consciousness based. So it's kind of relevant to the whole non-material and metaphysical aspects of this whole thing. That one I read it, but I probably have to read it again to get a good read on it. But yeah, I liked them both. I mean, for nonfiction, a lot of the stuff I already knew. Some of it was new. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. They didn't go crazy straight ancient alien either, which I appreciated.
Yeah, it's so easy to go down that route, especially in,
I mean that term covers like so much ground too. It's hard to start to separate all the different moving parts of that, but
right.
So they did Unidentified Season 1, and then I think now Unidentified Season 2 starts next week, July 11th on the History Channel. So that should be interesting.
Is it only on that? Because I don't have cable, but I would like to start watching some of that
Probably
stuff.
find it online somewhere. I don't know where, but I would imagine they have an app, I'm sure, too. You could probably get the app. It might be on there. I know a lot of these channels there are specific apps I know, or at least they should have all this stuff on there. TTSA teamed up with the Army to share and analyze the metamaterials. So they had that material where they felt like it was of extraterrestrial nature. However, they were unsure. So I think they partnered with the Army. I never followed up on that. Again, some people listening might know a lot more about this stuff than we do. Obviously, we enjoy it and look into it, but we're not the hang on every detail kind of guys.
Well, we got our hands in a lot of the cookie pots, so we can't super dive into one thing or another.
What do you
We're trying to find
cookie pot?
Why does he say that?
No, he just says weird things, but your terminology is all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and then they were they're entertaining the idea that these crafts or entities are malevolent. Or they're just maybe just some of them, but so that's where we'll get into the different narratives, and we've talked a little bit about it before. But TTSA, or To the Stars Academy, is under the assumption that based on the things that they know, that these entities might not be the most savory for whatever reason. And
Which I have a hard time to believe. I don't know what your take is on
well,
that.
there's some
but
people that say that's because of the people that know what's up or whatever, and their connections to like Christianity or the occult, and that these things might be demonic or something along those lines. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about all that. I would like to think that it would be like us, where some are good, some are bad, some have an agenda, some don't, or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like if they're if they're a higher form of being, we look at our Earth and what's holding us back is the fact that we can't all get along and we can't all look at each other as kind of a finger on a hand. Like I believe that we all share the same thing and we're all pretty much the same. Which actually is dividing us is the fact that everybody looks at everybody different. So if these aliens or these beings that are super advanced that they can travel across galaxies and stuff, you would think that they would have evolved to the point where they recognize how important love is. But I also see what you're saying. You have to have bad to have good kind of deal.
Well, I mean, light or darkness doesn't exist without light, vice versa, and you can go on and on with the good and bad. And to a certain extent, nature is binary. I think that life, though, is very gray area. So it just depends. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I would think that it would be, I don't know, because if let's say they are the angels of theology or religion, or they are metaphysical beings, or whatever you want to call it, fairies, or whatever the case may be. If anything's tied to anything, metaphysical or supernatural or paranormal like that, that they would be somewhat good, because there have been good accounts in the past. But again, it could be a scenario where it's like us, where maybe some of them want to do tests on us, or who knows, tinker, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, in my opinion, though, like if they were bad, I would think that they would have already done something. They would have already came out. They would have, because think about all the stuff that they've apparently have witnessed, because a lot of these accounts rose up after World War II and stuff. So if they were looking at our race as any kind of threat, or if they had any ill will,
well, that's the whole
I would think they would have
Greer
implemented
narrative. Is that once we used the atomic bomb, we drew attention to ourselves, because it's almost like butterfly effect type thing, or something along those lines, where once you split the atom, it has a ripple effect throughout the universe. Maybe we don't think,
which makes sense.
Maybe we don't think of it like that, but we don't know the kind of unseen things that we have an effect on with that kind of technology or power.
Yeah.
That's why it was Oppenheimer, when they did, he quoted, and everybody talks about this, but it's true. He quoted the Bhagavad Gita. I have become death, destroyer of worlds. That's what you're doing. You're destroying worlds, basically. So. Yeah,
it's an interesting narrative too, because when you grow up in America, you think that we dropped the bomb on, all those people in Japan, and that was a good thing. And then the more you look at it, you're like, I don't know if that really was such a good thing. Yeah, obviously it was a good thing in the sense that America wasn't taken over, but in the sense of all humanity, what is America and what's another country? It's just your perspective of where you live and who's right and wrong. It's pretty strange.
Yeah, boundaries and systems, and some systems don't fit in with other systems, and yeah, that's just the reality of the world as we know it.
Right.
So we'll get into that more in a little bit, but also you can invest in their organization until up to July 9th. So coming up,
I almost did
a week,
and then I said no.
A week from now. Yeah, as far as like investing or being a total fanboy or something like that, that's not my style. I'm interested in it, and I want to see where it goes, and I'm excited, and hopefully it does come up, will yield some results here. So I should say some more results, but yeah, I mean, it's not something I plan on investing in. Not that I don't believe in it. It's just, if I were to invest, which I don't, in the stock market, there'd be some other things that I'd go to first.
Well, they're not a publicly traded company either. They're just it's like you donate to their website. So
Yeah.
I don't even know how that whole thing works.
Yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, I was just pointing that out because maybe there are some people that want to. So, and money moves things. So that's what we do now. All right. So now we can talk about Dr. Stephen Greer. So these are I like to think that these are the two competing or big boy things
Yeah.
happening within the UFO UAP community. So we talked a little bit about Dr. Stephen Greer, the Serious Disclosure Project. The documentaries he's come out with is Serious, Unacknowledged, and CE5. I think most people have seen Unacknowledged. It's on Netflix. If you haven't, I recommend watching it. There's some good stuff in there. Whether you believe him or not, or his agenda or not, doesn't really matter because information's information. And Sirius was his first one, and I think which one was it where they had the tiny little mummy from
I think that's serious.
the Atacama Desert where
Let me check that out.
and Dr. Greer didn't really like the results that came up, but supposedly it was a aborted fetus, I believe, or something along those lines where it had a bunch of genetic abnormalities, so it had kind of an interesting look to it. So that's why they thought it was maybe a little alien or whatnot, but they
Yeah, it was missing like a rib or something.
yeah.
Yeah, it's called Sirius. It was a 2013 documentary. It is the one with the little man or the little creature thing.
It's a human being. You don't have to call it a creature.
I still believe, bro.
Do you?
I don't know. If you look at the whole, it's interesting and it's hard to really believe.
I mean, there
science,
are a lot of
because
UFOs.
what is science? Like 100 years ago, science was something different, and 100 years from now, science is
Yeah.
going to be something different. So it's hard to be like, yeah, I believe it because science has proven it. But what is science? It's an observation of you're trying to see repeatable things.
Right.
That's really all it is. So I don't know, man. I'd have to watch it again. But I remember when I was watching, I was like, this. I flip flop. I think you do the same.
I think what was I going to say? That area of the Atacama Desert in Chile actually has, I think, a decent amount of action, UFO action in that area.
Right.
So, I mean, who knows? But I don't know. I just go by what they said. I don't know what to believe per se. But he gave up his profession as an ER trauma doctor to push for disclosure. So that's what a lot of his documentaries are about: is who the people are that he's briefed, and he uses a lot of freedom of information and declassified files and things like that to prove his points on certain things. He created CSETI and the Serious Disclosure Project. He uses the freedom of information in different documents, which there are a few people out there that do that as well. He takes people into the desert or I guess other locations to meditate and communicate, or make contact with these UFOs and entities. So they are going out into these places and having these sessions. And
Yeah, it costs a pretty penny too.
we did our review of CE5. We did a whole episode on it with Matt Tiller. You can check that out. I don't know what episode it was, probably 10, 15 episodes ago. And he also, they had a picture in their documentary. What did you think of that picture of the alien that they took that was like through a bunch of like filters or whatever?
It's tough, man. It's tough to believe in any, especially in today's age of,
Well, you're a photographer.
Photoshop.
That's why.
Yeah, but you can doctor stuff. Like I've made videos where I made it look like it was coming from a 35 millimeter film camera. So it's like it's easy to beat up a picture and it's easy to alter a picture. It's a tough. I don't know.
And I want to point out that I want to believe in things, but I'm also not just gonna like blindly believe things or not look into them more or whatever. I think that's where you see people post a lot of crazy stuff because somebody says something. It sounds good, or maybe it like makes sense through deductive reasoning or something like that. But when you actually look into these things, you can kind of cut away the BS and start to see what's real, what's not, what aspects of these things are real, what are the possibilities, what aren't. So
Well, I think you touched on a good point right there. It's keeping an open mind because you have a lot of these scientists or materialists that say, yeah, when you pass away, there's nothing there, but they don't have the proof, and I don't have the proof to show that there is somewhere to you that you go. Same thing with a lot of this alien stuff. But I do really get more on the bandwagon of the telekinesis type thing, where if you're meditating and you're vibrating at a higher frequency and stuff, you can tune in to different things, and maybe that's more of the response to how the pyramids were built. Maybe these ancient people were meditating and then getting plans from some other star system altogether.
yeah, I mean that's we've talked about that with like psychedelics and stuff like that. I don't see why that couldn't be the case. And I've had
And that's time.
I've had a
and that's
couple
it.
weird experiences recently. We will talk about it in another episode, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't say what you're saying isn't wrong because we can't prove that it's wrong or right. But yeah, you make a good point. And again, we just have to look at the data. Where does it go, and what are the possibilities? And even then, we're going to be wrong. So you just got to put your best foot forward. Okay, so yeah, he believes that Dr. Greer, back to Dr. Greer, he believes that there is a network of extraterrestrials, like some sort of galactic federation, if you will, maybe not that, but something along those lines, where these things watch our progress, and they think they see us as a threat, like almost like we're quarantined here on this planet because of our inability to, keep it together and not blow each other up and not detonate nuclear weapons and not pollute the planet, etc.
Right. Like almost like Earth is like the South Chicago or the bad parts of Detroit in the solar system.
I mean, no, I don't think like that. I would say,
Well, I've read a lot of different things that say if you're here on Earth going through this experience, when you get to the next level, you're gonna have more of a reward because of how turbulent and crazy the experience of living on Earth is.
yeah, I mean, I think it's less about like area or like anything like that. Like you're thinking like actual material I'm talking about like our psyche and like the way our mind works. I'm not talking about like geographic locations.
No, I'm saying that too. Like the way that we treat each other and the good and the bad, and I don't know. I mean, the stuff that I'm dabbling in is a little more esoteric, but I was just like you mentioned this galactic federation or whatever, and you were talking about how it was almost more of a negative thing, but it also reminds me when we were starting to read about the Urantia papers and stuff, and that kind of coincides a little bit with that, where there's these hierarchies that watch planets develop, and then once they're set for life, then I don't know really the inner workings, if they inject the life or if it just naturally happens with single cell organisms, and
so
that's where the science comes in.
So that's like a lot of like theology based stuff though, because there is like we are quarantined in those papers. According to those papers, we are quarantined here because we, I don't know. There's something like bad about the way we were set up. So that even can go into like Gnosticism too, like something very flawed about us that it's our goal or our job to transmute back into this other
Love.
thing. But yeah, like a good being or whatever. But yeah, my whole point was he's looking at it like less about individuals or areas, but more about like, look at the way that countries are divided and look at the way that we still play games against each other, like like warfare, or now it's gone completely cyber for the most part, cyber attacks and different cyber threats and things like that. So
Right.
yeah, I mean everything's always evolving, but yeah, so his idea is that we haven't been like invited into this thing because I'm also like trying to shoot down UFOs and things of that nature too.
So he's saying that we have to actually evolve. Kind of what I was saying is that we have to put all our differences aside and come together and become one, essentially,
Yeah.
before they'll actually accept us into the hierarchy of the universe.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay. I actually agree with that. So
But and then there's other things too, because then there's some people that don't like that idea because they would say that that's probably some sort of one planet, one thing. You know where I'm going with that, and I don't. We
yeah,
don't get into any of that kind of stuff, so I don't. Um, let's see here. Let's move on from. All right, so you weren't on the episode we did where we reviewed it. So Matt Tiller and I think you were out of town, something I don't know, I forget. But Matt Tiller and I did a review of the Bob Lazar documentary that Jeremy Corbell directed, and this one's. I've gone back and forth on this one like a billion times because there are things that are weird. That why would that be the case? And then there's things where it goes the other way where, okay, maybe is he telling the truth? I don't know. I guess my assessment after the episode, the review, and you can go watch that. Everybody that's listening, you can go check out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can watch. I have a playlist where it's all UFO and alien stuff for UFO Day, and you can just go through
perfect for today. Yep.
and then also, if you're listening, I don't know what episode it is, but it's I think the name of it's like Bob Lazar documentary recap or something like that. So you can find it on our audio channels as well. So my assessment was after watching the documentary and also watching that Joe Rogan interview a couple times that if he's lying, he has to be a sociopath or something along
he's
those.
He's a phenomenal actor.
It's just I just don't know how. Even the body language and like on Joe Rogan he had a headache and stuff, but I mean, it didn't. I get
I
get migraines, so
for
me it was like that is an excuse to be a little squinty, and because I mean when you get when you have real bad migraines, you could become like light sensitive. You know, I don't know. I text you like if we have an episode lined up, I'm like, dude, I have a migraine headache. You know that we're not going to be doing that episode. So
yeah, my mom's has got them, and they're pretty brutal.
I've had a bunch less since I started taking certain vitamins, but still, I mean, when I do get them, they're pretty bad. But
I did want to jump on that Bob Lazar thing because like I dabble with like acting, and I'm an amateur, but you can tell when people are behind the screen, man. It's blatantly obvious if they're acting or not. And this guy would have to he'd be an award-winning actor. He'd be a Brad Pitt or something if this guy was either, like you said, either he's a sociopath where he believes the lie to the T, so when he's telling the stories, it's not like a lie coming out of him, or he's the best actor ever, or he's telling the truth. It's one of those options.
So it's basically all options, is what you're saying.
No, because he's not lying and knowing he's lying is what I'm saying. That's one option out the window. He's not sitting there telling lies knowing he's lying. Okay, he's either fully believing in his story, and like you said, there's something wrong with him. He's a mentally disabled. He has some mental problems, which to be that brilliant, I guess you're walking a
what
thin
do you mean
line
he has
between.
mental I never got any of that.
If he's a sociopath, he has a screw loose in his mind.
But if you're saying you said it as if you knew that was the case. We don't know that that's the case.
No, I'm not. Well, that's why there's two options. He's either that or he's telling the full truth and it actually happened. So you can decipher.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's weird. That's all I'm saying. It's weird because it's one of those things. Like if it was me and I had a story to tell, you would find things, especially with everybody watching this stuff, like these documentaries and the Joe Rogan thing. That's over millions of views.
Right. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I go back and forth about it, but a little bit about him. So he claims to have worked at S4, which was a secret site near Area 51 or Groom Lake. So most people know Area 51. And all those people showed up there for that thing last year. As far as we know that S4 is really there, and they had these in the documentary, these hand scanners that scan the density of your bones that Bob talked about, that it wasn't like a known thing. So for him to know about that, he at least would have had to have been there at some point to see these things, at very least. So and then okay, so yeah, Jeremy Corbell directed and told Bob Lazar's story in his documentary. The documentary is called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. I believe it's still on Netflix. I'm not 100% sure, but you can watch it other places too. I've seen people post it around. So
That's the one that starts with the government coming in and seizing stuff, right?
yeah, so that had to do with, I think he sold some sort of substance because he like runs a lab, some sort where they sell like chemicals and different compounds and things like that. And he sold something and it was used in like a crime or something, so they raided his lab. But they claim, or he claims, that he was raided because he still has a piece of this. And we'll talk about the element 115, which he was talking about element 115 back in like the 80s when all this stuff started coming out. And element 115 was discovered later as Moscovium by some Russian scientists who used a particle collider to discover it. However, the 115 that they discovered is unstable, and Bob Lazar is saying that there is a stable version of element 115 that is used as fuel for these crafts, and that's where he was working at S4 and trying to reverse engineer these things in the 80s.
So to sum it up, we don't have element 115 on Earth. Some scientists collided something to create it, but that version of it's very unstable. But he's claiming that in another planet, this element 115 exists in natural form, which they are able to use and harness as fuel for the spacecrafts, correct?
Yeah. Okay. But then they go into, I think that he talks about them being able to create it too. Like they somehow were making this stuff for, I don't know. You have to watch the documentary. I don't want to go into everything and I don't want to ruin a bunch of it, but yeah, that's pretty much the premise. However, again, he knew about the hand scanners, and he also, there's a few other little things that he knew, but so the real problem becomes when you start talking about his education and background. So this is where people look at the story and go, oh, I don't believe him. And that's when they talk about, so he claims he went to college at MIT and Caltech at some point, and that there's even people that can vouch for him that he was dropped off there, etc. However, I've never seen any actual proof of that. And he claims that there's no records of this stuff. They erased his record. So that was that whole thing when he came out in the news and blew the story up. And then the reason why he did that was because he was afraid for his life. And the reason why he was afraid for his life was because they found out while he was working at S4 that his wife was cheating on him, which raised some red flags. And then things started to go haywire. So then he started to get paranoid. And then he told the story on TV, and George Knapp started to get involved in all this stuff later on. But that's the main thing is why people don't believe him is the Caltech and MIT stuff. But when you watch the documentary, he's clearly a scientist. He's doing. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it looked like he was. And he understands concepts that I understand from physics and different disciplines where I know what he's saying to be true. So I haven't heard him say anything that's like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But I also haven't looked or listened to all of his stuff. So maybe there is something out there where he doesn't know what he's talking about.
You're not a scientist either.
No, I'm not. But
you just play one on TV.
Yeah. And that being said, he also attached a rocket to his car, which could you do? I mean, who's going to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to at very least be very, very smart and understand electronics to do that. So the other thing that kind of proves his point, was when he built that rocket car. I think there was a newspaper that came out that highlighted that he did that and that he worked at Los Alamos Labs. Now, they do stuff over at Los Alamos Labs is where I think there's like, I know there's like plasma research and different types of research I think that they do there. And he supposedly worked there. what was? Oh yeah, he also was in the documentary. They show that he was in the employee directory of Los Alamos, even though they claim that he never worked there. They also point to him being arrested in 1990 for being involved in a prostitution ring, which another reason why people. But I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what running a
What's going on,
brothel.
Bob?
I don't know what running a brothel would have to do with whether aliens were real or not.
Right.
Anyways.
He's still just a man. I mean, come on.
He's a man, but I mean, maybe he was trying to make some loot on the side. Who knows?
Right. That shouldn't have any valid. There's no validity to him
Is it
not being
noble or
smart.
legal? No, I mean, I guess if you're in Nevada, but I think you have to have some sort of setup where it's known about or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we move on to an interesting one in the sense that I don't know if I am on board with this. So I like what TTSA is doing. I even like the meditation aspect of the Stephen Greer stuff. And the Bob Lazar stuff is definitely intriguing. But this one, I don't know how to feel about this one. So there is a show on Skinwalker Ranch on History Channel where they have surveillance and they walk around with different scientists and their team and stuff and analyze cattle mutilations and different weird phenomena that pops up there. So it's a piece of land in Utah associated with paranormal and UFO activity. It was owned by Robert Bigelow, who most people who are into UFOs know who Robert Bigelow is, from Bigelow Aerospace. And it is now owned by Brandon Fugel. So Skinwalker Ranch comes from a Navajo legend of a vengeful shaman, and it's this, scary, almost like I don't even know how to describe it, but you can look it up. And some of the weirdness involves cattle mutilations, orbs, UFOs, paranormal experiences, and it's usually negative in nature. So there's usually some sort of effect in a negative way on either the people psyche or their physical well-being, different weird things. And in the show Project Blue Book, the show depicted testing being done using natural gas, simulating gases emitted from via seismic activity. So think like how the Oracle in ancient Greece used to inhale vapors from the earth. And that area, as you well know, if you watch the show, we just did an episode on tidal forces and the tectonic plates. And then we also did an episode before that. We did one on supervolcanoes, specifically the Yellowstone area, the Yellowstone hotspot and stuff. So that area is very seismically active. And I'm not saying that that's the answer to it all or anything like that, but I do think that should at least be checked out as a possible cause because seismic activity can create light orbs from different earthquakes and things like that. So I'm not saying that that's the case. I do believe that there are weird anomalous things, but I also believe that there could be natural explanations for some of these things.
Yeah, my aunt has been watching it, and I kind of told her my hypothesis about the gas coming out of the earth, and she's like, yeah, that could explain some of the stuff. I haven't watched the show, so I'm not sure how crazy the events are that take place there, but I do believe that gas could be heavily responsible for most of that stuff.
And maybe not though too. Maybe it is this weird place that's like some connected to maybe the magnetic grid, or some hotspot, or maybe there was some crazy stuff that happened there a long time ago. I don't know. You could get into like the whole Rupert Sheldrake morphic resonance theory where things can carry memory, like objects or places and things like that. So
yeah,
I don't know. So, but do I believe in Skinwalker Ranch? I believe that people are having weird experiences. I don't know specifically. I don't know. It just seems like one of the weak links in this whole thing from all to me. This is just my opinion. So, I don't know. I mean, I've watched like 4 of the episodes. I haven't watched them all, but I mean, I've seen enough, and I've seen
I mean,
Jeremy Corbell's got a documentary on it as well.
I really am a proponent of there's different areas on the Earth, and I'm more based on the Viola vertices where they're the big magnetic pull zones, and if you're vibrating at the right level, I think that you can meditate and get yourself into some weird situations as far as the normal people are concerned. But you meditate all the time, so if you had an experience, I feel like it wouldn't be such a crazy thing for you because you'd be kind of you've already been dabbling with some of the esoteric stuff, and you're also kind of going up and getting yourself right. And I don't know, I feel like there is magic on Earth. It kind of like goes back to what you were saying. We are living, breathing magic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you kind of realize that, I like to say that we're eternal beings, having a temporary human experience. And when you look at life like that, into that scope, it is pretty magical and stuff. And you can kind of brush away all the stuff that bogs you down in the day to day. But you got to vibrate high, and you got to eliminate some of these things like alcohol and stuff like that, and eat right and meditate and get yourself to the right plane. But I think humans can do way more than we're doing. That's just my opinion. So
yeah,
and I think we're all coming to the realization now, especially with we have different outlets where you're not always watching the news or this or that. You can go on YouTube, or you can go on to a podcast, and you can listen to different people's views and opinions and stuff. And it's not such a laser focused way of how you need to live your life and go to a 9-to-5 job. That's why I wanted to talk about that book that we both read in high school, because that even in high school I was thinking on a different wavelength, and it took me to almost now to actually feel what resonates with me. Like the Bob Lazar thing is a good example of it. When I watch him, I believe the guy. Why am I going to fight my natural instinct? I think people need to start going with their guts more, and if it resonates with them, then there's something to that. And a lot of people will be like, yeah, but then this and this and this, and then you almost talk yourself out of that.
Yeah, but what if it is made up?
Well, what if it is? But why does it?
I know, but
okay. Well, you could talk yourself out of any of that shit, though.
But I know, but I that's the whole point of all of this is what's real. And look, even what's real or not, like that's a subjective thing, because my reality is different than your reality. Yeah, we both can agree and acknowledge that there are weird things, or this is red, or this over here, or the way this looks this way. And maybe it looks exactly the same, but the way we interpret things is different, because that's the mind. So
I'm just saying, you seem to go flip-flopping back and forth, like even like the Urantia papers. There was something about that drew us to it.
Yeah, I wish I could to get back to that sweet, sweet place,
You can, man. I think you're overthinking
the
things
more
a little
ignorant
too much.
days of
I wouldn't say that. I think that it was more it was ignorant in the sense where you had nothing but to.
I didn't mean that, because even if something, it to like not be true, or maybe there's something weird about this or whatever, if you read it and it makes you feel better, it gives you a better perspective. Does it matter if it's actually real in the sense that you think it is what it's supposed to be, or whatever the case may be? I guess no, because you could say that for a lot of different ancient texts and religious texts and different things. So in that way, but yeah, I do think that we, I don't know. I'm on my own path. My own path is to figure out what the truth is. Like I said, it's like a gray area thing where, your idea of things is different than my idea of things. We can agree on things, but it's not as easy as this is reality, and what is objective reality really? I mean, we've talked about that a ton too, so.
My point is, there's things that have resonated with you, and you keep going back to them over and over and over again. The aliens are one of them. The ancient pyramids are one of them. There's a reason that draws you into it, and it's weird coincidence or synchronicity or whatever you want to say. But we went on a canoe trip one time, and this is right when we started the podcast. You brought this up to our uncle, and he was baffled because he connected to you instantly over that. And I don't know. There's something about that I just don't think is just happen chance. I think that there's a reason for that. And I think we're all here. And I think we're doing this podcast during this time because something is happening in the earth. You can say whatever you want, but I feel a change coming, and I totally believe that something's about to give way here.
Maurice has woken up from a
What's up?
135 episode slumber.
But we don't want to get too crazy because we don't want to, like, I would push it to my views, but that, you're right about that. There's no reason to lay our views on other people. We can put them out there and present them to people, and they can make their own judgment. Me and you see things a little differently, but we agree upon a lot of things. And that's what life is there's no two people see the world the exact same way.
Yeah.
So once you realize that, then it's like, okay, well, let's have me and you could get into an argument, but after we'll be calm, and the whole thing is just, it's a playful little disagreement about things, which no one agrees 100% on everything. So
right.
That's life. I don't know.
That is. No, you make some good points. I'm not even disagreeing with you. And you this whole thing that you're saying about how I connect with some of these things and I keep coming back to them. Yeah, I do. And there is something to them, but every time I come back, I learn a little bit more that excludes some of the things. So it's like this tightrope, walk that, I don't know. At least that's the way I look at it. It's a lot of seesaw back and forth, and I don't have the answers, but and watch out for people that claim that they do. I'll just say that.
Right. I think that the more that we do this show, the more we realize that the people that are actually the really smart people are the ones that admit that they don't know. They can present the information. They can bring it in.
There's money to be made too. Let's just say that there is money to be made.
Well, the money is the root of the all of
the only thing I want is just people that are interested in listening to all this stuff. Like if you want to go to our Patreon or whatever, awesome. But yeah, I'm not looking to divulge details for money or secret, like that's not our thing. That's never been our thing. So, but there are people trying to peddle that out there, so you do have to watch out for that.
We don't have a hidden agenda. We would love to do it and do it full time so we could get more information out there, but at the same time we do it for ourselves first, and then whoever wants to join on the ride can come along for it.
Yeah. Let's talk about ancient UFO sightings. So it's easy to go to the low-bearing fruit of ancient aliens or whatever. But let's talk about a little bit. As I mentioned in To the Stars, or Tom DeLonge and Peter Levenda, the Gods, Man, and War, a lot of that is actually ancient mythology and ancient things connecting the phenomena to those things, which is kind of what Ancient Aliens does, except they go a little bit of a step further and claim that these aliens built things or these aliens whatever. So that's where I would maybe draw the line, is them actually building things on Earth. Maybe they inspired human beings, but UFOs have been around since we were conscious enough to ponder such things. So that book, The Gods, Men, and War, they do a lot of the cargo cult stuff, which you can read in other places as well. It's just the idea, like, for instance, the South Pacific in World War II, some of the indigenous people on the islands had never seen helicopters or aircraft carriers. So if you saw that thing coming and you had no idea about that technology, you would think that these people are gods or some crazy aliens from another place or something like that. So that's the idea, and that why we think we're so advanced, that there is something more advanced than us, either some sort of breakaway civilization or probe from, like, let's say there's another solar system sent a probe into our solar system to check out our solar system or whatever the case may be, and it crash lands, and that's Roswell or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Something along those lines. So, they can be found in ancient accounts. You talk about ancient texts, whether it's the Vedas or the Bible, a lot of that stuff. It's like the Vyamanas, and in the Bible, you could talk about, the angels and ascending and descending from Jacob's ladder, like all that kind of stuff. There's all those accounts, whether that's what they're talking about. I have a different take on a lot of that stuff, and it still could be connected to the aliens, which is that we talked about a million times. I think psychoactive substances and psychedelics had a huge impact on early humanity and trying to understand and figure things out. So, and by, we've done enough episodes on that where people can go watch those if they're interested in that topic.
Yeah, and you're saying that doesn't necessarily mean it's fake, but because some of those psychoactive ingredients could be connecting you to like
yeah, metaphysical realm, or maybe the next
which may be real. So
you
can't.
Yeah. I'm not just and that's what Dr. Andrew Gallimore's book, Alien Information Theory, is literally all about. It's about the alien realm of people that take DMT, or if you can watch The Spirit Molecule with Rick Strassman, and those same thing. These people are having these insane experiences that are undeniable, that are more real than real. So, but do
you think that's like a cop out in a sense where they don't put in the work? Like if you spent your lifetime dedicating to eating.
No, because you have to know because, okay, for instance, when we were younger, we did psychedelics. We didn't have the reverence for them. We didn't have the perspective. Now, when you're older, you know that this is plant medicine, or that this is things that could help or help humanity. So I think that's the different perspective there, is that even if you do use those substances, you do have to be somewhat intelligent and understand what's going on. Have we always been a cargo cult? So that, there's some aspect that we're just not knowing, whether these things live in the ocean, and, we've seen them go from 60 feet in the air to water level in under a second, things like that. So, could these things be living in our oceans? Could they be living on some sort of satellite, outside of our, purview that we're aware of, something like that? That's a, like I said, a breakaway civilization. So that would mean at some point humanity has had some sort of advanced technology, and these people left for whatever reason. Maybe it's they felt superior, maybe they just had the technology and wanted to bounce. Who knows? You could speculate on all day on that, but have we been seeing unknown natural phenomena of some sort, or are these crafts made by extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings? So again, are we seeing earthquake lights, ball lightning? I'm not saying that this is the case, but what percentage of sightings are those things, and which percentage are they of, let's say, unknown origin, whether it be extraterrestrial or interdimensional, whatever the case may be? A von Neumann probe, I don't know. What percentage? Most people say like 97% are bullshit or BS, and 3% are legit.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. There's a lot of things I claim to know. That's one thing I don't.
Yeah, but even watching that CE5, there was some that you saw, I think you'll admit,
yeah, that was pretty cool too. But then when we had what was the guy on that was talking about the plasma? Oh, that was Gregory Little, right?
Yeah, Dr. Gregory Little.
So when he was on talking about the plasma, that fit the description to a T almost. And it's like, oh, okay.
Of what though? Because CE5, that the Stephen Greer documentary, they show a ton of different types of UFOs.
Yeah, but those guys, there were times when people would know when they were going to happen. And I'm more talking about the Tic Tac video and things like that, because the plasma would show up on radar and whatnot. I mean, that's the job of it, is the fake out radar systems.
I don't know. I'm not convinced of that either. That one, I don't know.
See, you still want to believe, bro, and there's been some info plapped on your lap.
Yeah, because why? Okay, so this is a whole different discussion then. So why would they, if they have these videos now and they declassified them and they said we don't know what it is, why would they say we don't know what it is, knowing that people know this thing's been written in articles what he was talking about? It's not like it's some unknown insider thing. It was in like Popular Mechanics, like these are articles that the public read, so
yeah, that's a good point. But again, it's hard for me to trust anything coming from the government. That's how skewed I am. That's why I need you to keep me in line.
I think that I don't think about things the way that a lot of people think about these things, in the sense that, oh, there's somebody at the top pulling strings, or this, and I don't think about things like that. What I think about is there's systems, and systems become corrupted. There is incentive within the systems for certain people to act certain ways. So while some of them might be malevolent or have ill intentions or whatever the case may be, most of the time it's just greedy or ignorant or stupid people running the show, and they don't give a shit, and that's it. That's the story.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of truth to that, because you'd have to have some serious secretivity if it was kept this much under wraps for this long. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm not denying any of that, but
oh, bro, you better
I don't
not.
know.
You better not deny it. So these are the people that we've had on our show. Give them a little shout out and a little bit of their info. So Sean Cahill. Sean was present on the USS Princeton when the USS Nimitz Tic Tac UFO sighting was going down, and he also had his own sighting, and he talks about it on Unidentified Season 1. I think Episode 3 is where they depict it. And we did an episode with him. Great guy, smart guy. I like his take. Very philosophical. And you can watch that episode. I don't know what episode it is. We didn't do it that long ago. It was probably 10 episodes ago, maybe less.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Dr. Michael Masters, we did an episode with him on his book, Identified Flying Objects. He is a professor of biological anthropology, and he wrote a book outlining his hypothesis that the UFOs and aliens are us, basically, you and I, just from the future. So they're time travelers. So the UFO would be the time machine, and the traveler would obviously be an alien. And there's people that talk about this. We've talked about this since the beginning we started doing this podcast, which this idea that if we were to traverse space for long enough and not be on Earth and be in space, you lose bone density, and evolution would make us evolve over time to look like aliens. I think Joe Rogan talks a little about that too. So yeah, that idea is not impossible to me. I think that there's actually some archetype stuff that makes sense. So check out our episode with Sean Cahill and read Dr. Michael Masters' book, Identified Flying Objects. You mentioned Dr. Gregory Little, one of our favorite guests. And he's a psychologist and an author who's written about this topic and has been fascinated with UFOs. And he believes that they are connected to plasma and plasma technology. So,
which may or may not be living organisms themselves. Right.
So his idea is that there's something paranormal or metaphysical about the plasma interaction and the technology. Chris Wolford, fellow Detroit man. He's a research and experiencer. He's also a fan of what TTSA, or To the Stars Academy, is doing. Super smart dude. Read about a lot of stuff. He's always got a good opinion on things, so you can check him out on Twitter. Matt Tiller, good dude. We've had him on the show probably more than any other UFO alien person. I think he's been on the show 4 or 5 times. He runs Tiller for Riller YouTube channel, and he is a fan of what TTSA is doing, as well as the scientific aspects of the phenomena. We recently had Bruce Fenton on. I think we've had him on a few times. He's the author. He's an author and researcher who has a hypothesis that we were genetically altered by extraterrestrials starting roughly 780,000 years ago via an impact event. And they have found recently a crater that might date to that exact time, or roughly thereabouts.
That was a really good episode. I like I think it was the first one when he was talking about us being. They found. I can't even remember exactly what. I have to go watch it again. But
the physical remnants or the physical evidence are the tektites, these little formations caused by this supposed crash. And Lee Adams, who's a friend of the show, and working on some stuff on the side with him. He was stationed on the USS Nimitz, but not when the sighting occurred. He also has had his own sighting when he was stationed in Virginia. If you remember that episode where he talks about, I think it was like New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or something, where it
Yeah,
was
the
at
bubble.
nighttime and they saw this like giant, he saw a giant like
Jellyfish.
jellyfish trash bag looking type thing in the sky that was massive. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's weird.
And then I mentioned him earlier, but Dr. Andrew Gallimore, who is I think he's a computational neuro scientist, and he wrote Alien Information Theory, and he was tying the DMT realm to the entities, something that's alien in nature. So like, I think they are gonna, they're I don't know if they are fully going ahead with that, but I think they're working towards doing that study or that test with the extended DMT stay, so people can map out that realm, and who knows, maybe even figure out what these DMT entities are that people are experiencing. Some people call them aliens, some people call them angels, some people think that they're just entities, some people call them machine elves. There's a lot of different, lots of different
So
names.
yeah, I mean, over the last couple of years, we've had quite the gambit of guests.
Yeah.
When you put it all like that, because a lot of these, when you get into them, they're not necessarily just fully about aliens, and they kind of like trickles back to that, which is, it's kind of cool to look at them all on a list. And because Dr. Gregory Little is he's a younger Dryas guy, right?
Dr. Gregory Little is a ancient mound. Well, again, he's a
Oh yeah,
psychologist.
the mounds.
He's written like a ton of
Right.
books. He's written stuff on the mind. He's written stuff on UFOs. I think the book he's working on right now with Andrew Collins is about the paranormal side of the UFO phenomenon, kind of maybe more in the Jacques Vallée or John Keel type of research. But he I drew a blank there. What was your question?
Oh, I was just saying, like, it's cool to.
Oh, Younger Dryas. No,
a lot of these,
they talk about that in Denisovan Origins, his book, but it's like kind of similar to that topic. Well, it plays a part because of the ancient civilizations and Göbekli Tepe, but in Denisovan Origins, more of that stuff comes from Andrew Collins than Dr. Little.
But it's cool to just look at the list, and no one's a quack on there. You got guys from the Army to doctors, psychologists.
Sean Cahoe's in the Navy.
Right.
So
it's
is Lee
like
Adams.
I said. I think Lee Adams has doesn't he? He's a psychologist major
He's
too. isn't he?
studying young and consciousness, I think.
So yeah, if you look at it like that, it's like, it's not just the crazy hillbilly that's seeing something out in there's actual valid people.
Well, I wouldn't even
making
brush off those
observations.
either. That's the Hopkins.
No, I'm not saying that
Kentucky.
either, but I'm just,
That's where all the modern day UFOs come from. Are these people in the backwoods of Kentucky that saw these crazy green-looking little goblin things coming out of a spaceship? So
right. I'm not putting them down either. I'm just saying, when
dude,
like you see all these movies.
I don't like your terminology, bro.
Well, again, man,
No,
I push it back to the
no, don't push it back.
to the media, man. They make it
No,
look like if
don't
you're
even
into
worry about-
aliens, then you're some kind of turd. That's all I'm saying. Seriously.
Well,
it's total
what about all the
bullshit.
articles though? I mean, because have been a bunch, even from scientific, websites and that kind of like outlets and stuff like that. I've seen more and more. I'm not saying that it's
Well, now because they have to start initiating, or they have to start.
the scientists are
accepting
still
that.
brushing it off. Neil deGrasse Tyson's still brushing it off. Who
Well.
else? I think Michio Kaku has acknowledged it. He's done a couple interviews on it, which he's more into like string theory or string hypothesis.
I mean, I get it. Like, a scientist doesn't want to dabble in this because it's such an unknown thing. And like I was telling you, like everybody knows, science is more based on repetition and the study of the repetition.
Well,
so
some things are just purely hypothesis or speculation that you'll just never be able to test it. The only way to test Dr. Michael Masters' theory is to get a hold of one of these time travelers, or
yeah,
or to actually create some sort of time traveling machine, because that's the only way you could prove or disprove that.
right.
So, and a lot of the sightings are anecdotal, unless it's a group of people or a video or something. You just have to kind of trust who you're listening to, which there are a lot of people that are full of shit. A lot of them I hear. Obviously, we kind of pick our guests. When people reach out, we'll have them on if somebody's got a cool topic or, something, presentation or whatever. But for the most part, I look into these things and make sure we're not interviewing legit people that don't know what they're talking about or crazy people. So
yeah.
And you listen to some of these radio show style UFO programs, and there's a lot of nonsense on there. I'm just going to say, I mean, no offense to anybody, but there's a lot of nonsense. And I think that hopefully when people have been listening to our show, they realize that we look at the realistic aspects of these things. We're not trying to, make people believe in crazy speculation without any sort of evidence. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, nonsense surrounds these fringe topics, and that's just the way it's going to be, because when there isn't any proof, your mind can run wild, and we know the human mind is prepped and ready to make up a fairy tale in some weird way. Plus, we like the unknown, and we like to have mysteries, so all those things together is a recipe for UFOs and speculation.
Yeah. Some recent news. So you know what FRBs are? Fast radio bursts, or frequency, or is it fast? Look it up. I think it's fast radio burst.
Check it out.
I always get either frequent. Yeah, I think it's fast. But it's these signals that are coming from deep space that we get that have a pattern or rhythm to them, and they used to think that maybe those are coming from some sort of civilization or whatnot.
Oh yeah, I have heard about that. They are fast radio bursts.
So now they believe these things called magnetars, which is a type of neutron star that has extremely powerful magnetic fields, is what's creating these. So that's a hypothesis that's out there now. Not that we needed, the UFO subject doesn't need there to be these signals from deep space, because if anything, that's more of a long shot than the actual reality of people that 100% believe they've been abducted by aliens or something, or people that are 100% sure that they saw something crazy, stuff like that. So,
well, I did want to piggyback on the Lee Adams thing, because some of these accounts might be the sleep paralysis.
And I think if you're in sleep paralysis, you're in sleep paralysis. Then when you wake up, you're not like, oh, that was real life.
Yeah, but you don't think some of these alien encounters could be people under sleep paralysis? Because when you're in it, some people
so
think
I would
that they're
say
awake.
Maybe people that, first of all, Lee would know that. I mean, that would.
I thought we talked about that one episode. We were talking about
yeah, but I'm saying he would know the difference between a dream or sleep.
Oh, I'm not
paralysis.
saying him in particular. I'm just saying these people that I was probed and all this crazy weird stuff happened. And
well, I think there was actually an article too where some guy dressed up like an alien. I forget what state it was, and anally probed like 70 people, like drugged them and then probed them.
Wow.
With an alien costume on.
Jesus, but and we also some of the guys in the army actually said that they would take these planes that were UFO-like, and they would scare the piss out of hikers and campers and stuff.
Oh, you
get like super low to the ground.
You're talking about the Commander Fravor interview on Joe Rogan, where he talked about how they would do certain maneuvers in the middle of the night with people in the desert and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, the fast radio burst thing, it's not that exciting to me. I think there was a recent one to come out too where it was even different than that as well, something even weirder, but I haven't looked into that yet. It's on my list of things. They found a bunch of large Earth-type exoplanets recently. I forget how large the one is, but I mean, we're finding more and more exoplanets. I think we used to only know about it like a certain amount, like not that many, and it's like exponentially increased with over the last like 20 years or so.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty certain there's life somewhere else.
Oh, yeah?
You don't think?
Zeta Reticuli, according to Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Another recent article is a recent hypothesis that suggested that there are 36 advanced civilizations in our galaxy based on what we know in probability. So it's like an updated version of the Drake equation. So they took what we know about Earth and how life arises and applied it to other places in the galaxy. And I mean, 36 doesn't seem like that many, but all you need is one of those to go roaming, you know?
Right, but that whole probability is dog shit because there's if they found life on one other planet, then they could implement that. But because they've never found life on any other planet, that whole thing is useless.
Well, yeah.
Seriously, because if they found one, if let's say they studied 10,000 different stars and they found one planet with life on it, it's like, okay, now we have something, and then you can multiply and multiply and then come up with an equation. But until you find life on another planet, you can't make an equation. You can't just go, all right, well, because there's a billion planets,
So you're saying
there has to be
just
life on
so
36 of them.
so since we don't know for sure that life arose via abiogenesis, it could have arisen via panspermia, directed panspermia, whatever. Um, so you're saying that since that's the case, that this doesn't even mean anything because you have to figure the other thing out first.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
mean,
can't
yeah,
make an
but
equation.
you can say that about
you can't make an equation with half the components.
yeah, but you can say
can't-
that about literally tons of things. I think that by them speculating that if they can locate some of these places, maybe even send probes there, they know where to look. It's a better odds of looking in the right place. Is how I would look at that.
But that hypothesis also said that they were like people like they were smart and they were like doing. They wasn't just like single cell organisms and shit. It was actual. Well, it says advanced civilizations, but I don't know what that really technically means. But
Yeah. There used to be this sweet show on Animal Planet or Discovery Channel. I know this was a long time ago. This was probably 15 years ago, maybe even longer. And it's what would happen to the Earth if we all like died out.
yeah,
Like
I
100
that.
years from now, 1,000 years from now, it went all the way into like the millions. And if if human beings died out, they said that the most intelligent, first of all, insects would become nuts. They would get bigger. They would get smarter.
And stronger.
It would be like those murder hornets or whatever.
Yeah, what happened to those things? That
I
was
don't-
just another.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like one day they were coming and the next they're gone.
Yeah. That's because they found a murder hawk, and this thing started taking them out. So no, but they said so. The most intelligent thing, like millions of years after we were gone, would be like squid or like cephalopods, like octopi. And what's
Yeah.
interesting about that is remember the movie? Is it Arrival with?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing. It's like a seven-legged version of basically some sort of like space squid, you know? So I think that's an interesting way to look at it. And there's other things. Ravens are super smart. Gray parrots, chimpanzees. There's a lot of intelligent animals. Look at that orangutan that saw the human being spearfishing and then was caught on camera spearfishing itself. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Right. But I don't know if that's actually I don't know if that thing's evolving to learn that or if it's just mimicking what
Okay,
it
so
sees.
but that's a better then that brings up the question. So if we're showing like primates how to use stone tools and it's inducing them into the Stone Age, did something induce us?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's inducing it. A parrot, you can talk to a parrot and it'll talk back to you. It doesn't mean it's mimicking you. So if a chimpanzee
I don't know. I think
is
they know-
obviously smarter than a parrot, it sees a human throw a spear,
I think
then it uses it.
I think they understand that there's certain levels of cognition behind.
Oh, you talk to him? You talk to that
no,
that
but,
ape?
okay, but so there's like the mirror test, which is so if an animal can recognize itself in the mirror, that's like one step of getting to, you know, being conscious or aware of yourself. But you're right, just because you can identify yourself does not necessarily mean that you're even thinking on any of those other types of levels. So I don't know, it's an interesting, we could talk about all day about like civilization and what civilized us. Did something else, how we domesticate animals? And I'm not saying
Right.
anything did, but I think the mainstream or academic point of view is that we domesticated ourselves, basically, that we settled down, stopped moving around, we stopped
We started farming and stuff.
farming, cultivating, animal husbandry, all that kind of stuff. So, but there's different theories that could suggest otherwise, that maybe maybe something else or maybe it was the Neanderthals or the Denisovans. Maybe they, who knows? But I think, yeah, it's interesting to think about, though. And look at where we are. It's just, look at what we know. Look at the technology we have. Look at the way we've manipulated our environment. We're so different than anything else, and it's, I don't know. It's just weird to think about.
I know, going to a big city, it always happens to me in Chicago, and you just stand there and look at the infrastructure, and you're just like, humans built this? This is insane.
Yeah, we did. We built it, but it's not.
Are you sure?
It's momentary. It's not going to last forever. Right. And
oh, that's what I was gonna say. Like, because you were talking about if in the multiple years into the past. Have you ever seen the movie AI? It's about that little robot. It's it's the kid from
Haley Joel Osment. I think
yeah.
I don't know if I've seen it, but it like falls to the bottom of the ocean at the end or something.
Yeah, it's not that great of a movie, but yeah, the end, he because he's a robot, I think the Earth goes a couple thousand years in the future, and I think aliens actually find him or something. But it shows like the collapse of everything, and you're right. After 1,000 years, I think most structures would be gone, right?
I mean, yeah, the pyramids, though. I mean, they've stood the test of time. Yeah, but if it's a metal building, I think they like a car can rust out in like 100, 150 years. I'm pretty sure that's nothing. That's like the age of a person,
folks.
Huh?
That's something to look forward to, folks.
Maurice is gonna rust out on air.
Well, last episode, the guy says the 4th of July is gonna be some kind of volcanic activity. So.
Yeah, get ready for your fireworks. I think it was actually July 5th, though. So.
Oh, okay.
You have the day to party on the 4th before.
That'd be crazy, man.
Before the hot spot gets real hot over Yellowstone. Right.
We're talking about some real fireworks, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, if you're listening, you don't know what we're talking about, go check out our super volcano episode, where I talk about why it's probably not going to erupt anytime soon. But if it does, it's brutal.
Yep. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen.
No. What was I going to ask you? So I want to know, though, what do you think? So from the beginning, from when we started doing this, the first episode we did with Chris, I think where we were talking about this kind of stuff, to where we are now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you think?
What do I think?
Like, what did you think going in, or what do you remember thinking? And then how do you think about UFOs now? Like, do you believe in them? Did you not believe before? But like, what do you think?
When I went into it, I kind of classified it I classified the people and the idea of it more with like a Sasquatch, where I thought it was kind of hokey and people want to believe, but there was always something deep down that intrigued me about it. Again, maybe it's just the mystery, and humans are always looking for the story, and a good mystery always intrigues us. But now I'm in the camp of, well, after looking at all the ancient civilizations, and it's almost like the Great Flood. All the ancient civilizations have some kind of account of this Great Flood, and the same thing with some of these UFOs, or either angels or some kind of star being coming down and enlightening them in some way or another. So I'm in the more of the camp that it's more of a mind escape, no pun intended, where it's, if through meditation and this and that, you could connect to them. I don't know if there's actual physical UFOs coming down. I'm more of the, but that doesn't mean that I don't believe that we're not communicating with different.
But at very least, there has to be something, because there is videos from the government, from the FLIR radars.
Right. But I think that's either private organizations with advanced technology, or the plasma. I think there's actual logical definition and explanations for that, but I do think that there is something else out there. I don't know.
So you don't believe any of those 3 videos, though, are anything more?
I think there's something. Yeah, of
no,
course
but
I believe there's something.
No, I know, but you don't think so. Like, what about the propulsion systems? What about what about there's certain aspects to it that, and like I said, I mean, even if you're deducting or you're saying that it's plasma, why would it be that plentiful and all the time. Like these people
I'm not
record.
saying it's a perfect explanation. I'm just saying that's what my mind leads to believe. But yeah, I don't know, man. Because then, like that one little movie we made about the kids in Zimbabwe,
Oh,
or
the school, the Rua Zimbabwe
yeah,
UFOs with like 60 school kids that all saw this craft land at recess, and a couple beans get out and run around, and they had like, the large almond eyes and long black hair. I thought the long black hair thing was interesting because you don't usually hear that, but
hmm
yeah, that one's fascinating as well. Like what was going on there, and all the kids drew similar pictures. Even John Mack, who was the head of Harvard's psychology school,
psychology.
went there and interviewed all these kids and said that he believes that they saw something or saw what they saw, and he doesn't have any way to discount it or discredit it, and he believed him. So
Right. And I trust kids almost more than adults. You're not going to get a group of kids to band together to come up with some kind of prank.
we've all been on the playground. Trust me, we know.
Yeah, you organize all those kids to come up with the same story and stick to the same story and draw all the same figures and stuff. Now that's a feat. I
Yeah.
believe that but that adults could do it because you get a little money in there and you'll talk people into doing damn near anything. But the kids, they're just a little their hearts are in the right place. They're way more pure back then.
And
I like that account a lot. I think
I
that's
asked
a big account.
Sandy, one of our listeners and top fans. She's from South Africa, but I was asking her like, what was when that came out? She's like, yeah, I remember that people were talking about it. It was definitely a thing, and I think
Yeah.
that's an interesting case. That one's definitely. If you guys haven't checked that one out, go check out the Rua Zimbabwe mass sighting with all the school children, because there's a lot of stuff that's in there that I don't know how anybody could dispute. So just even like the trauma that some of these kids, even in their 20s and 30s, were experiencing was crazy.
But yeah, to sum it up though, from the day we started this to now, I'm more in the camp that if you can tune your body to the right frequency, I think you can communicate with all kinds of different entities that are above us. Now, like I said before, are they aliens? Are they angels? What are they? I don't know. But I do think that there's more out there than just us. And I do really believe that we are eternal beings that will rise in consciousness as we progress up. Some people believe that, in reincarnation, what if you come back as like a spider or something? But I think as we evolve, you don't go backwards, you only go upward. So you wouldn't go back into the form of a dog because the dog is a lower being than us. You would just progress up and up and up. And I also believe that when we're born, we forget what we truly are, and you have to forget, because if you knew what you were, then you wouldn't participate in this game of life to the full degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be fully invested in the game of life. When people pass away, when you lose a girlfriend or something, and you have to deal with the hardships of your life, you have to be in it. If you knew that it didn't matter, then it wouldn't be that as effective. And the whole point of life is to fucking learn, and it's like a massive school. That's my outlook on it all.
Yeah, no, it's well put.
What do you think?
I believe that. Yeah, I mean, I believe in the metaphysical. I believe there's things out of our spectrum of whether it's our senses, or whatever, that we just don't know what's going on. So for me to even pretend like there's nothing else to this thing would be disingenuous for sure. But yeah, I mean, even going back to, Parmenides, the pre-Socratic Greek philosopher, that your senses lie, they lie. Like, have you ever been to Disney and been on one of those rides where you sit in the thing and you're in front of a movie theater like screen, but you feel like you're flying through the air? Like, your senses are being messed with. Like, people don't think about things like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more, and we know that we don't know what dark matter is. We don't know what dark energy is. The visible spectrum of what we can see is definitely not. We're definitely not getting the full picture. Yeah, and there's a lot of things. Memory's a weird thing. The mind in general. So that's why I've been focusing on how the mind works, and like philosophy of the mind and psychology, and not just to try and understand myself better, but to try and understand how the mind works and why these systems and processes, work the way they do. And through doing that, maybe we can shed some light on some of these things, especially the UFO thing, because I agree with you in the sense that there is some sort of consciousness aspect to it, whether that's how these things interplay with us, whether that's how we connect to these things. I think that there's something to that. And I'm also not discrediting that there could be physical beings that have either come here or could potentially come here in the future. I don't discredit that either. The universe is massive. So if some, civilization was able to figure out true anti-gravity or whatever, you could do whatever you wanted. So
from the first episode where we were just kind of shooting the shit about UFOs to now, after we've had on multiple
I was optimistically skeptical, where I did believe that the Earth has been visited, but I don't believe that they built anything on the planet or anything like that. I think that this is all the pyramids, the megalithic structures. That's all human ingenuity. Maybe it was inspired by a higher realm or a different realm.
That's kind of the camp I'm living in, but yeah.
I could get on board with that. But I definitely don't think, why would you traverse galaxies to build something out of stone? You know what I'm saying? So
I don't know. You ever seen the movie Stargate, bro?
Have you tried to watch that recently?
I just put it on. I turned it off after about 10, 15 minutes.
It's very fake looking, very tough to watch.
Yeah.
The storyline's awesome. If they should remake it and make it like an occult style UFO type of picture, I think it would be amazing. If they took if they took elements of the old one and made it more realistic, I think that it could be a sick movie.
That's what happened with the movie Dune, and that's like David Lynch made it, and he didn't have final cut, and it just didn't hold up well, and he was chastised for this movie, but.
Yeah, it's one of your favorites, right? David Lynch.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite directors for sure. Because I like that he does stuff that other people don't. He steps out. I like anybody. I might not even like the movies. I like a lot of his movies, but some of them I don't really like necessarily. I just like the fact that he steps out of the box and does stuff that a lot of other people aren't doing.
See the guy that I said that I was watching something and they were talking about how in his book that he got some weird shot that he wasn't even going to use for that movie, but he felt the need to shoot this one scene, and then he eventually did use it in like a future project.
He's a big transcendental meditation dude. He does like seminars all over the world, and he's huge, big proponent of that. But yeah, he's what we need in the form of more in scientists. I think we need people that are stepping out of the box, really going for it, and not afraid to fail or afraid of what their peers are going to come at them with. Because the people that really do make a ripple in space and time are the ones that step outside the box. It's just hard.
Well, bottom line is this: when you're watching shows on TV or listening to other podcasts or whatever, we're not sensationalists. I don't really consider us that at all. We might say some crazy shit here and there, but if you listen to some of these other shows, and again, I'm not trying to discredit anybody, and I'm not even going to mention who I'm even talking about, but there's a lot of sensationalism that people are trying to capitalize off of. And you won't find that here because that's not, I'm trying to find truth. I don't know why, and people that do that, whether they're just doing it for the money, why? What's the point? It's almost like, why not write a fictional book if that's the case,
Right.
Or create some sort of fictional franchise, because you'd probably be better off. It'd probably feel better too. But in terms of, you don't listen to anybody that claims they have all the answers. And if they truly do have all the answers, it'll be demonstrated and you'll know.
Yeah. That's one part of my big awakening here is just letting go of everybody else but yourself. In truth, you can only control yourself. You can only control your own mind. So listen, take in what other people say, and then you just make the judgments for yourself.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be judging other people, because now you're just lowering your. If you really, this idiot, he doesn't know anything. when you get into that state of mind, you're lowering your vibration down to their level. So if you really are true to your path and you're really true to raising up and becoming a better human altogether, then you shouldn't be getting upset at people in different states of their life, because they might not have had the same experiences as you have, and we're all here to just keep rising and rising and rising. But you got to be go ahead.
We got to get a shirt made where it's just a picture of your face and it says vibration underneath the head.
Well, we've been saying it for
this
a
guy's
long,
really into vibrations this last few days here.
I've been saying it since we started the channel. We're all just vibrations, but now I've been doing some research into it, and it's all starting to resonate, folks. It's all starting to come together.
This guy woke up after 135 episodes.
Well, you have to go through stuff in your life. Like you had an experience that made you get into this, and I kind of came on board, and me and you have always kind of been on the same page with everything. But then to take it to the next level, unfortunately, a lot of the time it's a tragedy or something bad that makes you really uncomfortable, and it forces you to. I'm not going to say that you were at a rock bottom in your life, but when you get really low in your life, you seek out things. Sometimes they can be bad, like a booze or a drug or something to take the pain away. But if you really feel that pain and you go through that darkness and you treat it right, you should rise up and find something that's good and better suited for your life. And I think that's what's going on with me right now.
Yeah. Well.
So.
Yeah, no, you'll figure it out, man. I mean, I like hearing what I'm hearing. I'm just giving you some shit, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the world needs more positivity, more good vibrations, and more just love in general. And, everybody's their own person. Everybody's an individual. But at the same time, stuff like this, UFOs, this stuff brings us together. So I think that this is definitely, whether you believe it or not, I think it's an interesting topic. And there's definitely something to it. And I believe in some aspects of this stuff. But, yeah, before we wrap it up, too, I just want to talk about, like, John Keel. So I started rereading the Mothman Prophecies. I think you should definitely read it because I know you've only seen the movie. And
Richard Gere doesn't do it justice.
Well, the book is all about, like, UFOs and stuff. And it has a lot to do with, like, that and, like, all the government stuff and the Men in Black and all that kind of stuff. So, and just weird paranormal type things associated with that Silver Bridge collapse and all that stuff. So you should definitely read that book. So we should do an episode or we can do a couple parts on John Keel, because I think that he's a really interesting writer in terms of this phenomena. And what's the other one? The Eighth Tower. That's the one that I just finished. I like that one a lot. So
nice. All right. Well.
But yeah,
good episode, my man.
Check that out. We'll be back, folks. I don't know when, but we're gonna do. We got some of the guests returning. I know we're gonna do it. I don't know, in the next week or two, part 2 with Arthur Copeman's, and
nice.
What else are we gonna do? We've got some other people. I'm working on some other stuff, so we still got some of our slideshow parts to part 2 of Super Volcano, and I want to get the Eleusinian Mysteries episode, part 5 of the Ancient Greece series, and at some point. So
cool. We might want to get that volcano in before the 5th, or we do it during the eruption. Now that's how you get views.
Yeah, well, like the band playing on the Titanic. They're just playing till the very last, till the Wi-Fi goes out.
I see it in the sky.
Yeah. But all right, folks. Well, happy UFO Day, and make sure you're watching your UFO shows and documentaries, getting your fix. And again, Unidentified Season 2 starts July 11th on the History Channel. And yeah, is there any?
Have a good Independence Day.
Yeah, have a happy, safe weekend. Please, everybody, be safe. Love each other, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
See you later.